Hi, I'm going to do a wee instruction video on setting your Soundmax drone reeds up. I know we done one a wee while ago, but we're going to be a wee bit more in depth regarding it. We'll start with what I said before. When you're setting your drone reeds in the reed seats, make sure I like to use unwaxed yellow hemp and cobbler's wax. As I explained before in one of the other videos, the reason being when you put the hemp round the seat of your drone reed and then you put it into the drone, it actually a mild glue, and it actually holds it very, very steadily in place. So once you've got that, I'd said as well, make sure that you've got the shoulder of the reed is sitting there nice and tight up to the end of your drone, and you'll see there we've got the three of them, exactly that. Now, when we send the reeds out, we put the bridles and the screws to a certain parameters. That should be enough to get you going. Different types of drones are going to need fine tuning one way or the other, but what you might find is, never having worked with these drone reeds before, you might go too far moving things one way or another. So we're going to show you what is basically back to a factory setting. So where they more or less go out from here is the distances are. So if you take it from your shoulder of where your drone reed meets the drone, you're looking at 3 centimetres from there to the first bridle. And from the second bridle is 3.5 centimetres to the second bridle. So that's the half centimetre difference there. And from the end of the drone to the very end of the reed is 9.5 centimetres. The mines have been set and I've not moved them, and both of them are pretty much exactly the same. There might be very, very slight differences in them, but they're pretty much exactly the same. Base drone, same concept. Your cobbler's wax on the unwaxed yellow hemp, that's what I use. Again, like I said before, you can use the ordinary waxed hemp, but I prefer the cobbler's wax for the obvious reason that I've explained. Differences are, obviously it's a base drone, so what you've got from the end of your drone or the shoulder of the reed to the first bridle is 1.5 centimetres. And from the same position to the second bridle, half a centimetre further, so that's 2 centimetres. And from the end of the drone to the very end of your tuning screw is 10.5 centimetres. So that's a good starting point that you've got from them. Now, where I normally set the drones is when you've got them set to the factory settings, you want to just have the drone there showing a wee bit of hemp to start off with. Now, what you'll do is when you blow the reed, again it'll need fine tuning, but what you should be able to do is blow quite hard and stop the reed. If you can't, then it's taking too much air. And as you can imagine, the biggest fear with bagpipes is you get too much air, whether it's going through your bag or through your reed, because it's just wasted effort. Now, when you're taking them out of your drones, I would normally, if you're not too confident, take the top off and then take it out and then put it back in and then put your tenor top back on. Once you get to work with them, you should pretty much be able to know exactly where they're tuning. But the vital point is make sure that you can stop the drone. And that's a good point there. You can start moving your bridles. I've been finding that I've pretty much only been moving those ones, the second bridle. The other one, it tends to, if you're looking for a wee bit of fine tuning, then you can maybe move that one. But I've found I've really not needed to move that. And then use your tuning screw. Undo the locking nut, screw it in or unscrew it, and then lock it. Now, your bridles, if you move the bridle up, that's going to sharpen your drone, which will make your drone tune further up. You move it down, that'll flatten your drone, and then the drone will need to tune sharper, so it'll come down. The screw, if you put the screw in, you loosen the locking nut and you put the screw in, that'll sharpen your drone reed and that'll make the tune further up. Unscrew it, consequently that'll flatten it and it'll make your drone tune further down. Always make sure that you lock it when you move the tuning screw, because it can vibrate and it'll move slightly up and down. There's a possibility it'll make it a bit unsteady. Exactly the same concept for your bass drone. When you get your bass drone, again, when I'm taking it out, there's nothing to stop you taking it off, because if you can imagine, you've got your bass drone and you're trying to take it out with your pipes, there's a possibility you can bump it against the side of the inside of the stock. What I would say with the bass drone, once you've got it set at the factory setting, I always like to think that kind of magical distance is 2 thumb widths. When I put my pipes together, when I'm blowing them up, I always put the 2 thumb widths there. I don't know if you can see that. 2 thumb widths, and the top just showing a wee tiny bit of the hemp. Again, that's a starting point. If you're not happy with it, put your screw in, or again, I normally would just use that bridle. I hope that's been informative and helps people with your new Soundmax drone reeds. Thank you.